I'm gonna tell you a story of how to get financial freedom through real estate in 5 years or less. And look, I'm telling you a story on YouTube. I've never done something quite like this before, but geez, stories change lives, don't they? I mean, some of the most impactful books in business and real estate, they're stories. I mean, think Rich Dad, Poor Dad, or The E-Myth Revisited, or Richest Man in Babylon. There's just something about a story that has the power to completely change somebody's life internally. I mean, I can give you 100 tips for becoming a millionaire, or how I bought 10,000 rental units and raised $400 million to do it. I can and I will, I promise, on this channel. Those things are coming, so be sure to follow me. But nothing is more powerful for changing an identity than a story that illustrates the point. And this is the point I'm gonna try to make today to you, that anyone can get financial freedom in 5 years or less through real estate investing, even in today's competitive market. Here's how. So Jack, our hero in this story, sat in this beautiful chair in his well-furnished office, fingers dancing over the keyboard. As a software developer, he made really good money, enough to own a comfortable home. He drove a decent car, he provided for his family. And yet, every morning, he kind of felt this void. While his job wasn't exactly soul-sucking, it had become kind of a monotonous cycle of code and coffee. He felt like a cog in a never-ending machine, devoid of purpose and a lot of passion. The benefits of his career obviously were tangible. I mean, he got a steady paycheck, he got health insurance, maybe 401k, but Jack barely got vacation time. Even on weekends, he'd find himself glued to his computer screen, fixing some bug or responding to an email, or his boss was harping on something. And the precious moments with his kid, Lily, was getting sparse. I mean, she had recently started attending dance classes, and he missed more than one of her recitals. Now, one evening, it all came to a head. Rushing home from another long day, Jack hoped to catch the tail end of Lily's latest dance recital, but traffic and then emails and then a last-minute client request held him back. By the time he reached the school auditorium, the event was over. His wife, Sarah, she stood outside holding Lily's hand. I mean, disappointment evident on both of their faces. "You missed it again, Jack," Sarah said, her voice a blend of sadness and frustration. "Well, honey, I had client issues. I had to..." Sarah interrupted him. "Look, there's always going to be something, Jack. It's always a client, or it's always a meeting, or it's always traffic, it's always an email." They argued that night, more out of concern than anger. Sarah finally concluded, "Look, we need to find another way, Jack. This isn't working. We need to start building wealth outside of this 9-to-5 trap." Now, Jack's initial response was defensive. He began listing all the reasons he believed he couldn't possibly venture into anything else. "Look, we don't have a lot of money. We can't go invest in something. We don't have capital. I don't have any time as it is. I know nothing about investing. Haven't you heard? The real estate market, if we go there, that's super competitive right now. There's no options." Now, Sarah then hits him with a quote that she read in a book, The One Thing. "Jack," she said, "when you argue for your limitations, you're gonna win every time." Now, Jack took that to heart. He began to kind of shift his perspective. Rather than all the reasons I can't, he began to focus on how can I. A week later, Jack noticed a poster at a local coffee shop. It was for a real estate meetup that was happening there that night. On impulse, he decided, okay, I'll go. That evening, he met Michelle and Kyle. It was a vibrant, energetic young couple. I mean, they looked significantly younger than him. They owned dozens of rental properties, and they were already financially independent, despite being in their late 20s. They spoke of their travels and how they balanced it while also trying to grow their portfolio. Now, intrigued and slightly envious, Jack actually approaches them. "How did you do it? And would you consider mentoring me?" Michelle, she chuckles. "Jack, you don't need a mentor. What you need is a roadmap." So she scribbles something on a napkin and handed it to him. "This is our 5-step real estate success framework. If you stick with it, you're going to find your path." He looked down, seeing the 5 simple bullet points. "It can't be that easy," he says to himself as he slid the napkin into his pocket, already thinking of all the reasons that 5 simple tips are going to work. They're not going to work. "I don't have the money," he protested. And look, I don't even know how to find deals. And what about..." Kyle grinned and cut him off. "You're thinking too far ahead. Focus on the first step on that napkin, Jack. It worked for us. It'll work for you. Trust it. The answers to all those questions, they are good questions, and I promise you, they are figure-outable if you simply move through those 5 steps in order." The next morning, Jack again studied the napkin he had received the night before. Bullet number 1 to Michelle and Kyle's 5-step real estate success framework. It was so simple it almost felt silly. 4 simple words: commit to the journey. "Well, I am committed," he mused to himself and then said to his wife, "I'm super committed." And his wife looked at him and said, "Are you really, though, Jack?" I mean, she wasn't being inconsiderate, but she continued, "After all, think of what you told Lily last week when she said that she was committed to getting good grades this year. You said to her, remember, commitment isn't the same as desire. Commitment is when desire meets action." And Jack, I love you, but other than that meetup, you haven't actually taken any action, so are you committed? Jack knew she was right. So an hour later, he stared down the pile of papers before them, the ink from their pens still drying. It wasn't a contract for a job or a new house. It was a contract with himself. He, with the help from Sarah, had outlined their vision for the next 5 years in which they would be financially free. By signing the document, he solidified his commitment to the newfound journey. Now, he knew that this act of signing a piece of paper, it was symbolic. But to prove his commitment, he looked down at bullet point number 2 on the napkin so he could get to work right away. And the second point simply said, educate to mastery. So Jack wasted no time. He began immersing himself in the world of real estate investing education. Books, podcasts, seminars. If there was knowledge to be gleaned, he was after it. Now, he soon found himself joining a tribe called the Better Life Tribe. It's an online community brought together by this guy, Brandon Turner, with new investors, experts alike. They believed in uplifting each other through mentorship, learning, and accountability. Jack was placed in a pod with 3 other members, each with the same drive to achieve financial freedom through real estate. So, through his education and through his conversations, he realized that the answers to all of those questions out there were materializing before his eyes. But realizing that he needed to build capital and have money to invest, Jack narrowed his focus on house flipping. He poured hours into understanding the art of finding and buying and rehabbing and selling homes for a profit. And finally, it was time to move on to the 3rd bullet point on the napkin. Take action. This one, Jack thought, this is key. I can do this. So he immediately took the knowledge he had collected and followed Michelle and Kyle's advice. He went and took action. He actually found a for sale by owner sign in his neighborhood in front of an ugly looking house. He called the owner, he ran the numbers, and he made an offer, and surprisingly, he was flat out rejected. They had received another offer for tens of thousands of dollars more that same day, and they went with that one. Now, frustrated, he called up Michelle and Kyle. He said, hey, can we go to coffee? He met with them later. After ordering their lattes, he sat down and immediately began to complain to them. Look, I'm committed, he said, and I've educated myself, but I still failed. What did I do wrong? Look, success isn't about finding a deal, Jack, Kyle said. It's about the process. Did you forget about the 4th bullet point on our success framework? Remember what it was? Stick to the process. Think of it as a diet and exercise regimen for real estate investing. No one woke up and, surprise, they had a 6-pack. No, an incredible body is a result of an incredible process. You got to define your process and then stick to it until the results manifest. For us, Michelle chimed in, it's all about luck. Now, she pulled out a Sharpie and sketched out an acronym on the side of a white coffee cup. Leads, underwriting, compete, and keys. Now, let's start with leads. Those are potential properties, and you're going to need a lot of them. And the more automated you can get those leads, the better. You know, whether it's real estate agents, whether it's direct mail marketing, cold calling, door knocking, it all works, Jack. You just got to get leads coming in. Then the U in luck is underwriting, which is really a fancy word for analyzing. I mean, every property has a number that could make it work. You just got to work backwards to find it. And then the C, you have to compete for the deal. And look, there's a lot of competition, so you got to make a lot of compelling offers. And you got to negotiate to get the deal. And if you do all of that for a long time and you do it at scale, you will get the K in luck. Keys. You're going to win the deal, but it's a giant funnel, a numbers game. And the better you play that game, Jack, the more times you're going to win. Embracing this, Jack set out to build the habits and regular actions, the processes that would make not landing a great deal a shock. So after asking Kyle and Michelle and several other real estate investors from the meetup, he began to make a plan based on what successful investors were doing on a regular basis. He decides to attend 2 real estate meetups every single month. He decides to go to lunch with an existing investor at least 1 time every month. He's going to spend 20 minutes a day, just 20 minutes looking at potential properties online. He's going to analyze 20 deals per week. He's going to make 5 offers every week. He also decides to track some personal processes as well. He tracks his weekly dates with his wife, his gym sessions, his bench press, and even sets targets around daily one-on-one time with his daughter. And to keep track of all this, he uses the habit tracker inside the Better Life Tribe, and he's off to the races. So, while Jack started with a lot of enthusiasm, after a month, Jack began to kind of slack on his processes, and honestly, he just wasn't doing the work. Thankfully, his accountability pod inside of the tribe called him out on it, and they got him remotivated. He realized then that this is a long game, and he finally understood that accountability is the key. It's the sticky key. So he recommits to the process. He gets back to his processes, and this time he made sure not to let off the gas. And because of this, he lands his first deal. He actually uses a hard money loan through Better Life Real Estate Funding, the Better Life Ref, betterliferef.com, to buy the property. But house flipping, geez, it was harder than he expected. And Jack made a lot of mistakes, too many to name here. And after all that was said and done, and 6 months of time had passed, Jack sold the property and he made a total of $386 in profit. That's less than $1 an hour, he moans to himself. Time to talk to Michelle and Kyle again. When he calls them up, they do something actually really surprising that shocked Jack. They actually congratulated him. They were excited. Why? He asked earnestly. I mean, I didn't succeed. Because you did the work. You flipped a house, Kyle said, unable to hide the excitement in his voice. And while you didn't make really any money, you are in the arena. You're fighting for your financial future. You stepped into the ring. You cast your net into the... I think he gets it, Michelle laughs. Okay, that's great, Jack said, but I'm still no better off than I was 6 months ago. I still don't have a deal. Jack, Michelle responded. Do you still have that napkin from the first time we met? Jack pulls out the tattered, yet still readable napkin from that coffee shop meeting that had changed the direction of his life 6 months earlier. Jack, look down at number 5, Michelle said. He looked down at the words he had read so many times, but today, those words internalized deep into his soul, and he understood for the first time. The 5th bullet point simply had 3 words: persist and improve. Together, the 3 of them looked at the break-even flip that Jack had just completed, and they looked at the several kind of key mistakes, the biggest ones that he made. First, Jack fully would admit this. He didn't manage the rehab the way he should have. He let the contractor take too long and go way over budget. And secondly, he overestimated what the property would actually sell for. I mean, assuming the best-case scenario of the deal rather than the conservative value. I mean, had he simply run the deal by Kyle and Michelle at first, they would have spotted the second error right away. They would have helped him negotiate a steeper discount or encouraged him to back out and look for something else. But his ego got in the way, and he didn't. Lesson learned, Jack thought to himself. Now, taking these lessons to heart, Jack improved his systems, and he educated himself on how to better manage rehabs and how to better estimate the after-repair value of a property. And because he's still being consistent with his processes, he actually lands another flip quickly, just 2 weeks after that fateful meeting with Michelle and Kyle. Now that deal, 90 days later, because he learned, nets Jack $89,000, as much as he made it his job last year, and thus began a new phase in Jack's life, one that he called flip a house, buy a house. He would literally flip one house, take all the profit, and then invest that into a rental property. And because he persisted and improved continually, 3 years later, Jack was the proud owner of 45 rental units, including 3 short-term rentals and a small self-storage facility. He was actually making more money than he was from his job, so he quit his job and he can pay all his bills with passive income. But Jack isn't just sitting on a beach now, he actually still flips. But now he does more than 30 per year. Through his team of 5 people though, they handle 99% of the day-to-day work. His active income from flips is projected to cross over $500,000 this year, and that is after the salaries from his team have already been paid. He and his wife Sarah take 3 months off every year to explore Europe with their daughter. And when they came home this last time, they found their business had actually grown despite them not being involved, just because of the processes Jack put around his business. And speaking of processes, because of the processes he put around his life, he was healthier, he was down 20 pounds, he could bench almost 100 pounds more than when he started. He had the strongest relationship he'd ever had with his wife, and his daughter and him hung out more than ever before. And he was just getting started. Now, this might be a story, but it's not fiction. This is a life for millions of people who have chosen to invest in real estate. Now, every story is unique and different, and not every story, honestly, has a happy ending. But those who fail rarely fail. They actually just stop following the 5 steps that I outlined in this video. So let's recap those 5 steps right now in case you, the viewer, are not taking notes, because this is important. First, commit to the journey. Remember, there's a huge difference between commitment and desire. Aim to be committed. Second, educate to mastery. Not just like a light education. Educate to mastery. It means getting really dialed in on being the most educated person you know on the niche and strategy that you're pursuing. That focus. Third, take action. People talk, winners do. Make your identity one who takes action regularly. Fourth, stick to the process. One thing we say all the time in the Better Life Tribe, and yes, that's a real thing. The Better Life Tribe has over 1,000 members. We say this: you get the results of what you repeatedly do. So define what those things are. Define what they are, and then you're going to get the life that you've always dreamed of if you work it. And of course, if you follow step 5, which is persist and improve, you have to stick with it long enough for the work to manifest into results. But just doing the same thing over and over doesn't guarantee success either. You have to always be asking, how do I do this better? How do I get better leads? How do I analyze better? How do I offer better, network better, be better? All right, I'm Brandon Turner with the Better Life Tribe. And if you found this helpful, give me that little like button below, give that little like button a hug, and let me know what questions you have down below in the comments.